when people say, don't take it personally. I'm the opposite. Take it personally. If you're not putting your heart and soul into what you're doing, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. You got to add your gut. Thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here and talk a little bit about what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. So jump right in and with a question before I get into the main questions, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself? Kind of, like the whole way you were born, where you went to school, all of that.
I don't know the way I was born, thank goodness, but my name is Catherine Miller. I'm the current executive director of the Marilyn Rodman Performing Arts Center in Foxborough, Massachusetts. I was born in Connecticut, actually. I always loved the performing arts. The pictures that my mother has of me, I either have a microphone in my hand, or I have a crazy dramatic expression, or I'm posing in some sort of dramatic way. So I think performing the arts has always been part of my blood. Actually, I'll tell you this, and who knows if it's appropriate or not. Apparently, I was conceived on Broadway, according to the old tales. So, whether or not that's true, but mom and dad liked Broadway too, so maybe that's in my bones. And then, yeah, I lived in Connecticut. I worked for performing arts organizations, and I moved to Massachusetts in about 2008 during the recession, trying to find a job in the arts. To be with my now husband. Ended up finding something part-time at a music school in Boston, Community Music Center, Boston, for 10 hours a week. And I said, you know what? It'll have to do. It's the arts hiring during the recession, so I'll take it. And then somehow I'm in Foxborough, but here we are. I'm sure we'll get to that.
That's super cool. Well, the first question was what sparked your passion for performing arts, but you gave me a answer to that in what you just told me that is even more than I expected. So I think that's
Isn't that funny? Yeah, I mean, who knows what sparked it? Who knows? But it's, at the end of the day, I think kids are inspired by different things at different times, and you never know what's going to hit when. I remember going to a performance at the Bushnell Center for the Performing Arts with my father. It was Showboat, if anyone knows that old musical. And I just remember absolutely loving it and loving the spectacle, and not only remembering the show, but remembering looking at the lights and looking, how did they get that boat out there, and listen to the voices. So I was super intrigued at a very young age. I had to be in elementary school at that time, just by this idea that all this spectacle could happen on this one stage, at the same stage where I've seen singers just with an orchestra. So all of a sudden the stage was transformed into something that to my eyes looked like Disney World, right? So you never know when something's going to hit. And I really think that's one of the first times where I'm like, this is cool. I like this.
Yeah. I think that it's important that everybody finds their thing. Obviously, I teach martial arts, and it plays a very meaningful role, certainly has in my life and in the students that I teach. But more than martial arts, I think it's important that you find your lane and your groove and your tribe, right? And you have had to have seen people whose lives have been transformed by, using the performance art as their vehicle. Um, any particular one stand out? It sounds like it resonates with you.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for me, I really appreciated my teachers in the performing arts. And I'm going to say that in a twofold way. I had some performing arts teachers who were really incredible and just inspired me and dug deep into my soul and got me. And I had some performing arts teachers that I really wish I never had. Some that really made me not love parts of myself, um, really brought me down. And that was really a catalyst for me to say, you know what? I need youth to get the absolute best opportunity and the best experience of the performing arts and use it for what it's meant to be used for and not go the other way. So it's interesting that, at least in my childhood, and I think it's actually probably common in a lot of people who work with youth, the bad experiences as well as the good experience really help propel you forward to do the work you do. And I am in the performing arts and I love that, but the work that I do here at the theater and the work that I've done before this, and actually in my whole career in the performing arts has been education and youth development based. It's been working with underserved youth in the cities, in Hartford and in Boston, to get them exposed and them opportunities to experience the performing arts. Here at the theater, we have a community access fund and youth opportunities to make sure there's different ways where children who are either in need or just need a place to go can access what they can use to help them grow in the performing arts. So um, it's actually, it's a blessing to use the talent and interest I have to help youth find their way, whether or not they end up in the performing arts. I think the great thing about this work is that it is transformative. There are stories to be told. The arts in general are just such a welcoming, inclusive space. So to have this Pink Theater in Foxborough, the square building where we get to welcome kids and say, who do you want to be? Great, you can be that here. Let us work with you in whatever way fits your current needs to help you succeed in whatever that may be. I love it.
Yeah, and I'm going to say two things just to throw back a compliment to you. Number one is I'm so glad that the bad teachers that you had, you know, I find that people will either model that and, take on that behavior, or they'll say, I remember the way that made me feel, and I am going to commit to never making anybody feel that way ever in what I do. So I compliment you on that in recognizing that that was just an unfortunate communication or representation of the arts. And then the second thing is the transformation, because when you're talking about, students from inner city that might not have the access or the opportunity to explore their heart and soul the way that I'm sure happens when you present them with the opportunity, you really have the, without overstating it, without making it sound cheesy or anything, but you really have the opportunity to potentially shape their destiny based on the choices that they make and what all of a sudden sparks their interest. So it's so cool to me that you remember that and you recognize that you're not somebody that's just walking through the motions. You're in tune and in touch with the magic that can happen when it's presented the right way. So bravo, bravo.
I love that you say magic. That's a we have a sign in our office that says "Believe in the magic," and I think it's a Christmas sign. But our artistic director Jennifer Rathbun got it for us because we do think what we do here is really magical, from large scale productions to just having a moment with a youth who feels comfortable to use their pronouns in our space. Those are really magical moments. And I love that you use that word because we're in the business of magic here, but not with magicians.
Yeah, no, it's far more powerful, to be honest, and it is. But for somebody to be living their role, but staying in tune with the awesome power that it carries, that's I think what truly does make the magic. So, my next question: every community has a heartbeat. How would you describe the role of the Performing Arts Center and the role it plays in the heart of Foxborough?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So, studies have been done and it continues to grow that having arts in a small community area really help to promote economic development and the vibrancy of local small towns. So we're in a little suburb here in Foxborough, and we have, what I consider is like a little city as well with Gillette. But right here in our uptown, we've seen since we reopened in 2017, but I'll even push that to more like 2021 after the pandemic, we've seen a huge uptick of traffic and consumers coming to the local area just because they visit the theater. So then they go to the restaurants and they go to the shops. You see people walking around and there adds a vibrancy and excitement. People might not know what show is happening and it doesn't matter. What matters is people feel safe and comfortable that we have this theater on the corner and it looks safe and happy and people are having fun. And thus they're adding to the vibrancy of the town. And that's very common there. They even said after the pandemic that a lot of people were leaving the cities and moving to the suburbs. And what they wanted was less of those chain restaurants and chain activities that you see around. And they really wanted that good local community grassroots small shops that you see in the cities. And so infiltrating all of that back into this space, including the theater, including the boutique shops and the small business restaurants, that's really added, all of that has added to making Foxborough a really wonderful, livable, exciting area.
Yeah, it really has come to life in the Foxborough Common. It has a feel of its own, and it makes it very, very special. I've been there and I've been a part of that feel, and I love it. So, bravo. Um, as an executive director, you wear many hats as people do in a position like that. What part of your job brings you the greatest personal fulfillment?
Oh, there are so many. Well, I think the it's not. I will say that we're a presenting house, so we have about 60% are community shows that come in, community theater groups that come in and use our space to produce their own works and present their shows, and then we have headlining acts. So comedians that travel across the country, cover bands, variety shows like Medium. So we have definitely a blend of that community and headlining talent. I will say there's nothing, and I'm known for this here at the theater, there is nothing like watching a curtain call when students take a bow for their performance. If I'm working a show and the shows that I work, and it's known thing and it's kind of a comical thing here now, I might not be watching the whole show because I'm managing our volunteers and I'm managing the front of house and the box office. But I open those doors so it's ready for the patrons to leave, and I'm watching those children take bows, and I cry. I cry every single time. Every single time. I don't know the children, I don't know their stories, but I know for a fact that someone up there has performed for the first time, and I know for a fact someone up there had anxiety, and I know for a fact that every single one of those students is feeling some sort of immense pride and celebration at that moment. And it just for me is so impactful that we get to have a place where these students can hone their craft. They can break down whatever wall they have that they're trying to tackle. They can make new friends. They can find something new. That they can show their parents who they are and their relatives and their friends. To me, it's just the greatest gift that we can give children. And in my role that I can give children is keeping this theater open so they have a space to perform and to be themselves and to feel this immense pride. So I'll go with curtain
Yeah, I
calls.
love it.
Curtain
I
calls do
love
it
it.
for me every time.
Um, the presence that you bring to the work that you do is admirable. When the daily activities that you do can actually bring you to tears, and maybe it's of course not shows every day, but when you don't lose the touch of that, I was going to say the magic of that. I didn't want to be repetitive, but truly what it is. You are the right person for the job. That's for sure. This might be the same answer, but can you share a behind the scenes story from a performance or an event that made you step back and think, this is why I do what I do?
Yeah. Yes, I can. And you know why? Because over the years, this story still sticks with me. And it was only a couple years ago, but we have an internship program, a student internship program where high school students can get paid to work in our box office. And they're amazing and they do great work. And it's really hard work because it's customer service and it's money management and it's technology, and they do a wonderful job. We had one student who was using pronouns and didn't wasn't able to, for whatever reason, probably acceptance, use those pronouns at home or anywhere else, but felt really comfortable to use those pronouns with us. So we felt that was our first win. We then started to learn more about this student who was very interested in makeup and styling of wigs and costuming and all kind of the backstage magic that happens to transform into characters. So we had a returning group, the Edwards twins, come in, and if you don't know
Hey,
the Edwards twins, they're a hoot and a holler, but they they are two brothers who who transform into all these amazing vocal divas:
wow.
Celine Dion, Cher, um, uh, they do Bette Midler, right? So all these iconic women divas. And thus, backstage, they have all of their wigs set up, state like the makeup is everywhere across the stage. And we said, is there any way that this student can come and maybe have a talk with you? Well, they had to spend 45 minutes with them and showed them how to style the wigs, what the wigs were made out of, how they add prosthetics to their face to transform their face. They just spent so much time when they could have been getting ready, where they could have been vocalizing, stretching, whatever our artists had to do, but instead they took this time and gave it to the student. And to me, that was beyond generous, but I also felt like, okay, we're doing our job. We're seeing every single person who we work with here and making sure that they have an opportunity that suits them. And I know that evening meant a lot to that student.
It sure did. And where else would that student had an opportunity to really feel that level of connection? If that didn't happen, if you didn't have the foresight and they didn't have the generosity to be able to give that time, it's a wonderful story. When we talk about connection, there's probably some intergeneration connections that are happening because of the Rodman Center. Can you talk about that, the different groups, and how you maybe bridging the generations? I know you've referred to pronouns a few times. How else are we bringing people together?
Yeah, I mean, pronouns are a hot topic right now. Unfortunately, I would say, in our political climate, but you know, we have the opportunity for all groups to really experience our space. So access is a big piece for us. We work with individuals on the autism spectrum who are both young and through adult, through a program where we incorporate music and dance and visual arts into their lives through workshops with artists and teaching artists. A nice connection point that we made is we have, if you're not from Foxborough, you should come and visit because we have all these beautiful foxes around. And they're, I mean, let me think, they're probably like 4 feet tall. They're not like your tiny foxes, but it's a public art installation. And the theater has a fox and it's beautifully hand painted by an artist named Howie Green. So we asked Howie to have a gallery install in our, actually, I'm in my gallery right now. You can see a gallery installation with his art. And then we asked him to teach one of these classes for us for our LifeWorks participants who really just had this amazing experience to not only create art with a professional artist, but then to see actually the art that this artist had created in the space. It really was a wonderful moment for them. So programs like that, we are really really strong on trying to make connections. Who knows who, what would make sense if we're doing this big scale production? Who can we incorporate? We work with the YMCA Inclusive Glee Club. They're this just incredible group of individuals who love to sing and have so much joy in singing. So we say, well, when can they come on our stage and perform? So we have them in our annual Rodman Awards, which is a community event this year. On Thursday, actually, they're opening the show for us. So really trying to find those connection points and think who is not being represented in our space and how can we get them into our space and how can we make them feel that this space is for them too. They're not just visitors; they're part of our quilt and our makeup.
Yeah, that's
That's a
that's
very important
wonderful.
piece for us.
Um, the, you being the executive director, probably like my job, people don't realize that there's a lot of behind the scenes, unglamorous things that we do. What are some misconceptions people might have about what it takes to keep a venue like the Rodman Performing Arts Center running so smoothly?
I just love this question because of recent. I've gotten the question, Chris, are you a volunteer? Are you full time or part time there? Do you have another job? I'm like, no, this is very much a full time job. This is very much a full time job. My husband had come home from work one day and said, "Oh, I had to interview someone." I'm like, "That's great." And he said, "Yeah, they had gone through the entire process, so I was like the third round." I'm like, "That must be nice because I had to write the job description, post the job description, do a screening interview, do the first interview, do the second interview, write the offer letter." So it's just,
Yeah.
we're a nonprofit. We do it all. Um, but yes, I mean, I think, at the end of the day, my mindset has always been and will continue to be you have to run nonprofits like a huge company. You have to run it like a for-profit business. And there is a certain level of hustle that happens because at the end of the day, we want people to support us financially. We need people to support us financially in order to survive. But we have to really make sure our operations are tight. We need to make sure that our finances are in order. We need to make sure we are, running a very solid organization for people to believe in us and still give to us. So, I mean, there are so many misconceptions, right? I've cleaned toilets before, for sure. And at the same time, I've been meeting with major donors at beautiful restaurants. So I, it's the world of a nonprofit. I do like to be busy, so that definitely does it for me. I will say too that the biggest hurdle I face with this job professionally is that there is a lot of building maintenance and management that comes along with it. Our building is an old Orpheum theater and it is
Wow.
turning 100 in 2027.
Wow.
We're having a big centennial celebration. It is that
Mm.
at 100 years old, right? Whether it's a person or a building, things start to break, right? So there has been a fair amount of
Mhm.
capital improvements that have needed to be done. I think it's time. I think our beautiful building deserves the love and attention and the funding to sustain it. You hear about the stories that I've shared, and there are handfuls more of those stories. That can only happen if our space is inviting and safe and accessible and up to code. So there have been projects and improvements that will continue to happen over the next 5 to 10 years to make sure that we're ready for our next century.
So, do you feel like you're a general contractor sometimes?
I do. I have masons outside right now working on our plaza. I absolutely do. I talk to more contractors than my staff, but it's okay
Right.
because now we can start to see visual improvements. When I started here, my first show, there was water pouring in on patrons in the audience. I had no idea the roof needed to be replaced. So that was my first line of business. We need a new roof. Then we realized that the HVAC systems were broken. So we brought in these huge commercial grade heaters and like an oven. We preheated the theater before people came in and then took them out. So then we need the HVACs. So those, I will say, like unsexy projects, no one could really see. Now we're working on the outside, the building. We did a wonderful campaign last year called Reimagine the Arts Uptown. We'll have a new plaza, new fencing, a lovely seating area, new signage. So those are the things that I'm excited about because people will actually see we
Right.
are doing work in here.
Yeah,
Sometimes you can't
absolutely.
see the roof, but it was
My
replaced.
location in Foxborough, we've been there for about 30 years. And one Saturday morning, we walked in, we opened the door, and literally 2 feet of water poured out. And, it's just water, I don't think people, unless you've been in a flood, realize how damaging that is. But all of the, oh my goodness.
It's
Yeah, for
humbling, isn't
sure.
it?
So, looking
Very humbling.
ahead, what's a dream project, event, or partnership you'd love to see come to life at the center?
That that's a great question. I think for me, and I'm going to say this is probably a project more than anything else. I really want to see all aspects of our building be accessible for those with physical challenges. Right now, we have an upper gallery that is not accessible because our lift is out of code. We want people to be able to safely get up to our green room upstairs. We want people to be able to get on stage who have limited mobility. So I think that accessibility piece, which really can relate to so many things, that's really going to be the continued focus for the theater for the next decade or so.
Yeah, and those things, unfortunately, those aren't cheap fixes for sure, and it really requires a massive level of funding
Or
and
not.
a lot of time to be able to bring that to fruition. But that's a wonderful ambition. Especially with the goal of making it so inclusive.
I think people are now starting to see that the theater is meant to be here. It's meant to be here for a purpose. We had last year in 2024,
Wow.
26,000 patrons. We had over 100 shows.
Sure.
There is a need for this space. And so now that people are seeing that's being run well, that great programming's happening, I think the investment from um, from individuals, from businesses, I think from the state level, I think it will, I don't want to say be easy because it's never easy, but I think we have a good case for it. I think we have a good case. And, we have hundreds and hundreds of kids play sports all the time. And when we have children come here on Saturdays and perform when they could be playing soccer or lacrosse, there's a need for this. There are kids who need to be here and want to be here, and we need to invest in that too. Not just the fields, not just the sports equipment. We need to invest in this piece too.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think every child, the way that I look at it as a teacher is I look at every child has a particular genius that nobody else, can match. And as a teacher, my hope is that through the work that I do, I'm able to unlock that genius. But, you know, it might take something, a different vehicle than what I provide to be able to do that. So when I just resonate so much with what you say about that. There are children that they're not going to be able to get what they need on a field or a court, something like that, but they will come to life on a stage if given the opportunity. And it's wonderful. It's so wonderful that you provide that.
Yep,
I'm
absolutely.
curious, who have been some of your personal role models or inspirations, either in the arts or in leadership?
Well, I have so in the arts in general, my dream celebrity is Julie Andrews. I won't say I've learned from her in terms of performing. I don't perform, but I will just say she is a goddess to me in terms of performing arts. But in terms of influencers, I when I meet people, and throughout my life, I think I've been like this. I'm an empath. I think I really see people, and I think you learn both who you want to be and who you don't want to be from the people you meet. And I won't say that there's been one incredibly impactful manager that I've had or mentor that I've had, but there's been pieces of them that help me shape who I am as a leader and who I am as a manager to those here at the theater. One person who I had in my very very early part of my career at the Bushnell Center for the Performing Arts, Yolande Spears, she said, "Catherine, you're creative, you're artistic. If you're running and you're thinking about work, you're working." And that just hit me. I'm like, thank you. Because sometimes you can't sit at a desk at a computer and think of this amazing artistic project or program for kids. And I will say, for the programs we do produce here, I've always thought of my inspiration on a run. And I just love that she saw that in me. And that made me think, see people, see what does it for them, because everyone's not the same. Every person you manage is not going to be the same. We aren't a big corporation. We are a small nonprofit with artistic individuals. See them. I also had another manager who was very laid back, almost to a fault, except it wasn't. I kept saying, I just want him to give me direction. And it took me a while and years to realize it wasn't that he wasn't giving me direction. He was giving me the leash to create the whole path. And he believed in me. He never said he believed in me, but he literally offered such little supervision. I thought that's interesting. You're not being micromanaged. You're letting creativity flow. And then I had another manager at the same organization who was the complete opposite, who was a micromanager, who really just felt like it was his way or the highway. I'm like, I'm not sure that's how I would ever be. So I just think throughout your life, you meet people and you grab little tidbits, and that should shape who you are, and that should shape how you treat people, whether it's in that way or not in that way. And the best thing we could do as individuals is really reflect upon that and really reflect upon how that can impact our lives and the lives of people we touch.
Yeah, it's a beautiful answer. It's very intuitive on your behalf to understand that and be able to articulate it as well as you did. On another podcast that I am a part of, we talk about character, we talk about leadership and culture. And part of creating a culture is moving away from treating people as their widgets and really taking the time to get to know someone. because it's very difficult to unlock the full
Mm.
potential of a profit, a nonprofit, a department, or a team unless you've created a safe enough space where people have the ability to feel safe and embrace their uniqueness and allow that shine to come through. But if you treat people as if they're widgets, everybody will remain pretty guarded. So it's wonderful that you've had that diversity of experience and you've gained that lesson, and I think you and I and hopefully people in leadership positions and elsewhere will continue, because I don't know that you ever arrive. I think we're constantly learning, growing, and filtering these experiences. May I ask, what advice would you give to a young person who dreams of working behind the scenes in the arts world one day?
Work hard. This is my new thing. Work hard. Do the grind. I think it might be generational, but I see it. I'm a mother of four and I see it with my kids. And how can I make sure they're not lazy? But this, you have to work hard and you have to make opportunities for yourself. Even now, that's what I do in my job. You always have to be trying. You always have to try. And the time you stop trying is probably the time you need to look for a new job or look for a new place to be, because you should want to learn more and you should want to grow. I will say if anyone wants to work in the nonprofit, you will most likely start off very low in terms of either hours or position or whatever it may be. You have to show your worth and you have to prove your worth. You might not have the experience, but find out how to get the experience, whether it's through conversation or research or whatever it may be, or talking to people, but put in the work. I am lucky enough, and my colleague and I say this all the time, to have worked in the performing arts our entire career. That's
Absolutely.
crazy. Normally that doesn't happen. But since college, I've been able to find jobs in the performing arts. And it's from one, working hard, and two, the people you meet, you'll meet again. It's a small little industry. It's a small little industry. And you'll go back to them for either advice, recommendations, uh, something that comes up with work you're doing and how they might be a piece of that work. So I would just say, at the end of the day, you can make your own story. You could make your own future by working hard and by talking to people and getting to know them. Back to your point from the last conversation, everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has a story. And if you listen to people and if you remember their story and if you reflect upon their story and really get to know them, you're going to make an impact that way too. I will say this question on this is that I met a donor at an event at my last job in Boston, and I was telling him about myself, and he had poker face for sure. And at the end of the conversation, he said, "So would you say you're self-taught in the performing arts, administration wise?" And I said, "Yes." And I thought I was done then. And he said, "Okay, I like self-taught." And he handed me a $5,000 check.
Wow.
So you never
Wow.
know.
Wow.
You never know.
Within
Yeah.
within your answer, I heard the word, or I imagine the word initiative. I don't think, as well as I know you, Catherine, and I think we're really just, starting our friendship. You don't strike me as a person who sits back and waits. I think you really embrace and you go out, and I think that might be part of your grind. Am I right on that?
You're absolutely right on that. You got to manifest for yourself, right? I uh
Okay.
I lived in Foxborough before I worked here. And people had said why I had worked in Boston in the arts. And they said, "Well, why don't you get involved in the theater?" And I looked at it and I said, "I just don't think it's time." Then I was a stay-at-home mom for a little bit. And I'm like, I need to do something. Let me see about the theater. And then when the position
Hmm.
came up, I said, "You know what? I think it's
Hmm.
time." So you have to be
Hmm.
ready too. You have to
Right.
be ready for what you're about to take on.
Hmm.
You don't want to do anything halfway. And I think that's really important. If you're not ready to really commit to something and have that initiative to tackle it, don't do it or go and find a different project, because really big things happen when you add your personal investment. And I really think in the arts, and I would probably say in general, one of my pet peeves is when people say, don't take it personally. I'm the opposite. Take it personally. If you're not putting your heart and soul into what you're doing, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right. You got to add your gut.
Yeah. I think about if if it doesn't speak to your heart and soul and you're willing to do the work and take the initiative and experience the grind, if you're not willing to do that, you surely will be competing against somebody like yourself that is willing to do that, and you're gonna lose. So I think your point about maybe you should find something else that will move you to take that kind of initiative and want to experience the grind. I think you're better off positioning yourself there.
And at the end of the day, the result from that grind is what's going to make you feel your best. That's what's going to make the difference. When you have that reward by the success of whatever success measures out to be in that instant, that is why you grind. That is why you do the work. This organization to pick up has been, I will say, and I'm sure this will be the hardest work I will ever do in my career, because it was not in a good place when I started here probably 6 years ago now. But I can't tell you, it's probably in the short time, and I say the sliver of what we're going to accomplish, it feels good. It feels good. The grind was worth it.
Well, and I think, Catherine, the grind, I'm not sure those tears would fall, at the end of those performances, because if it wasn't for you doing all of that, that the meaning, it's the grind that allowed that child to have that moment. It's incredible. Okay, final question, my friend.
It's true.
When you're not working at the center, where might we find you with four children? And what's something you
Oh,
love to do that might surprise people?
God. At the kitchen sink. You'll find me
Yeah,
at the kitchen sink washing dishes or folding clothes. Folding clothes. I had a pile the size of Everest yesterday. What might I do? Well, I do have four beautiful children, and I absolutely love them. And they absolutely love that mommy has the
the
keys to the
best.
Pink Theater in Foxborough, which is very cute. I love to run. I love to work out. I've said I've always worked out for mental health. And I think that's a really big piece of keeping your sanity when you're in the grind, is taking care of your mental health. And I just absolutely love to throw a party. I will say that. And maybe it's not surprising working in the theater, but I have
Of
four kids.
course.
So then we have at least four birthday parties a year, then add on whatever other celebrations we have. And I just absolutely love family. I love having family over to my house. My sister also lives in Foxborough. She has four kids as
Hmm.
well. So just having them
Wow.
over is a party. We have 8 kids between us. Um, I I love to be outside with my
Hmm.
children, except in May because of the pollen. Um, I love, love any minute I can get with my husband, though it is few and far between these days, which is probably why our marriage is successful. Yeah, I just love being with my family.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, you are a treasure, my friend, and I'm so thankful that Foxborough has the benefit of your passion and your grind. I think you're doing something beautiful for the community, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you. So, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for making the time to have this conversation, and I look forward to the next decade. As you come to bring some of these visions you have to fruition.
Thank you, Chris. This is so nice that you're having a platform for people like us to get our message out and to spread the word of what we do. And I'm really grateful for you and your contributions to this community. Thank you.